Three, two, one.
Let's
go! Oh, yeah!
Oh,
Look at Skippo. How's the weather at the Arches, man?
Dude, it's great. It's beautiful out here right now. I'm in disbelief. Crystal clear day.
Man.
Absolutely no one here.
Wi-Fi was just on point.
Wi-Fi. I can't believe it. These national parks, man, they're just putting in these like little Wi-Fi hotspots everywhere. It's great.
Dude,
well, like a bike that, the little generator bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping the power alive.
Keeping the power running.
Man,
the best I can.
We have Darren Brazel on the show today, and Darren was born and raised in northern Alberta in the oilfield family. He became an electronics engineer in 1994, spent 10 years in the high-tech industry until the dot-com bubble burst in the early 2000s. Darren then started his professional career in oil and gas after a chance encounter with industry veteran Randy Strymer in 2003. That meeting resulted in a permanent role with Randy's company, LogTech Canada, where he was quickly promoted to VP Sales, responsible for global sales and marketing efforts. In 2009, LogTech was acquired by IHS. Cha-ching! Darren spent the next 5 years integrating the LogTech products and customers into IHS and then leading their global account management program in Canada. In early 2014, Darren was hired by TGS to build their well data. Let me start that over. In early 2014, Darren was hired by TGS to build their well data division in the Canadian marketplace. Although successful, the project and role were terminated permanently due to the industry downturn and massive layoffs in the Canadian market in late 2015. In 2016, just a few months later, Darren joined back up with Randy at his new company, NRGX. Darren has been leading their global sales and marketing efforts ever since. After living in Calgary for 25 years, Darren is now live on PBE coming from Denver, Colorado. Darren, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Man, we had a blast. It was the first kind of product review. We talked about doing this and getting someone on that would go through kind of the nuts and bolts of the solutions that they have for the industry problems. And this one in particular, we talk about LAS data management and just the man. I
mean, this one hits close to home for both of us, right? I mean, you especially, right? Being the data manager and then, just using that data every single day and having some way to organize it and, spend more time interpreting, right? We always talk about that. Less time data managing, more time interpreting.
That's right. That's right. And I like there's a lot of things I liked about the show, but one of the later things that popped out was you guys have designed a tool that kind of sits on top of this network that we just call it a network. And the IT guys know what that means. Everybody that's on it is just like, it's the network and it's where everything's at. But what I visualize is like NRGX is got this tool that sits on top of it, and it's actually managing everybody's data in a certain way, no matter what the single individual user is doing on their own desktop, which from my experience was always the big kind of the elephant in the room. Like, hey, guys, stop doing that. We need the data for everyone to have access to. Everybody's using the latest data. If it's on your desktop, it doesn't work. But throughout the show and by the end of it, I was going, whoa, you guys go, no, that's fine. Keep doing what you're doing. You're not going to change people. They're going to keep doing that. It's like it's just intuitive. People are protective of data. It's all kinds of different problems. Yours sits over the top of it, scans it through, and as long as you have the rules in that from the NRGX software, then that's the hub that everybody can use. And underneath that umbrella is whatever they do individually. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we learned in experience that although there was some really good log data management solutions out there over the years, the limitation, or one of the limitations, was people only trusted it as long as they believed all the data was there. And the minute that didn't happen, which was difficult to always ensure all the data was in the system, people tended to then start hoarding data themselves back onto their local hard drive or back on their own desktop. and just, now you're using different systems and not using the system that the company invested in. So yeah, part of the thinking in our development was make it real easy, let the system just always stay live. If you want to manage data and network structures, go ahead, keep doing that. Our system will pick up on anything new that you do in your usual routine and still make it available through the window for people to access.
That's pretty slick, man. What'd you like from the show, Skip-O? What'd you learn? What'd you like?
I was going to say, we kind of go into it later on, but talking about one of my first ever lunch and learns in Midland being with, the NRGX boys, and kind of seeing how the product has developed from just 3 years ago to today, and all the things that they've added on, and how, especially the thing that I like the most is all the curve mnemonics stuff. Because that for me has always been the biggest pain, because whether you're getting a log from Schlumberger, Halliburton, some random mom and pop that was out there, everyone uses a different mnemonic. So having a way to organize all that and all right, let's just find everything under the gamma ray umbrella, right? And then saying, oh, wait, there's another mnemonic in there that we didn't even see, right? So let's pull that out, and then let's look at the wells and visualize that, in this AOI that I'm interested in. So that for me was my personal favorite part of what has been developing with you guys.
Right on.
Super. Thank you.
Darren, same question, man. Learned, liked. What do you got?
Hey, I've heard about you guys. I've seen a couple of your presentations and your stuff online. So I'm intrigued. I'm flattered to be part of this and join you guys online. It's always good banter to talk to, guys who are actual end users, without being in it's a sales customer discussion where people are a little cautious about everything they say. So, it was just good to get some real banter and feedback from you guys on what some real life scenarios are. So I appreciate that.
Let's start the conception. Let's start the conception part of this show, Darren. Man, how did it all get started? What happened, and what got you here? What's going on with LAS WORX?
Sure. LAS WORX, is a product by a company called EnergyX, which was founded by a gentleman named Randy Strymer. It was founded the company started in 2011. After his previous company was acquired by IHS. And
Nice.
The core group of the company almost exclusively have worked in G&G software and in digital log data software and solutions. So there's a whole lot of years of experience wrapped up on the service side and understanding log data, specifically digital log data, the nuances around it, and how can we help make things better for the end user is the ultimate mandate that we live by every day. So EnergyX, born in 2011, and the first product of LAS WORX came out shortly after that, which was an ability to clean up LAS data. Although LAS is a standard, it's adopted and used heavily around the world. It still has a variety of nuances. The standard is still a little bit loose. There's various formats depending on which logging company it's coming from, which vendor it's coming from, if it's generated internally from various software packages. Different software packages require or are finicky about certain formats of the data. So we understand a great deal of that, and have initially developed a tool called Clean to in bulk standardize that data so that, or prepare it so that it was consistent, trustworthy, so that you could then go off and import or load that data into some database, a data management system, or your geological workstation.
Yeah.
With confidence, without hiccup, without it crashing or tripping over corrupt data, and just loading seamlessly.
Wow. That's a hell of a challenge. We had a little experience with doing that. And, there's a big difference between plotting a map, putting a bunch of well bores on a 2D map and saying, here's how much production this well made. The difference between that and here's the LAS file of the vertical well that's now has a Z value. So you have your XY, you can locate that on a map. Lat long, easy. Production data, no problem. IP data, whatever you want to do about the well, you could show that. Now, when you turn that and start going into the subsurface and you're calibrating those logs and the LAS data, the digital curves that are coming back, trying to map the subsurface for geoscientists and engineers, that's a totally different game. It involves so much. And you guys and LAS WORX has been on the front lines of trying to make that a little bit more seamless. And it doesn't matter what geoscientists I talk to, every one of them is like, I just needed to find the resistivity law. I can't freaking find it. Driving me crazy all day long. And there's always something. Always. So it's interesting. You know, there's millions of wells in America. There's millions of wells in Canada, probably too. And every one of them's got at least a gamma ray, it seems like, some kind of downhole log telling us where the top of this formation is, how thick it is, ultimately giving the results or data for a geoscientist and engineer to map the subsurface and start quantifying the resources that we potentially have. Like, that is an amazing process, very difficult. And to standardize that now, I think is more important than ever. Oh,
yeah. And I actually got a pretty fun, well, not funny, but it was a pretty interesting story about LAS WORX. So when I was originally coming out to the Permian, I just finished an internship with the federal government. And, you know, in the internship, my job was basically, I was data boy, right? I'm going in and like going into these logs that are all busted and corrupted and figuring out what's going on, spending hours upon hours, day after day, just fixing, like you said, a resistivity log, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, we need to calculate something, right? Well, the geologist wants to do some sort of reservoir model and he needs this log and it needs to be this log. And I'd just spend days upon days upon days cleaning these logs. And then when I was moving out to Midland, and I remember this super clearly, it like almost like yesterday, I moved to Midland on a Saturday. That upcoming Monday was my first day starting at the company Troy and I were working at. And Troy, you were out of town because you had some family stuff going on. And you said, hey, I need you to take my spot at this lunch and learn for this company. It's NRGX. And for me, I've never heard of the company in my life. Right? I'm just getting into the industry.
Nice.
I showed up to this lunch and Perry and we're sitting there and you're going through the product. This was 3 years ago, I guess. And
I recall.
I just remember staring at the screen saying, I've wasted so much freaking time cleaning data instead of interpreting it. Yeah. It was absolutely just like mind blowing. I'm like, this exists. Like, how come not everyone knows about this? How come not everyone uses this? This just takes time out of the data management and allows the geoscientists to interpret that data, which is the most important part at the end of the day, right? We want to allocate as much time as possible to building those models opposed to fixing a log.
Right. Exactly right. So Darren, now going into the drill down, the completion part of this show, you guys have a product that you are now giving out for free, no charge, for people to use and understand how they can use that tool for data management purposes and to really help them be more efficient at their job. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then let's bring it back, rock it back like Skippo calls it, and we'll go into like your academic career, young professional stuff, and dive into that.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a product that's relatively new this last year that we call LAS WORX Store. And it's the ability to access your data in an organized view from a browser, internet, online screen, so Google Chrome, things like that, without the requirement for an installed piece of software. So as this COVID thing kicked in and layoffs were happening, people were being pushed to work from home, we quickly realized we've got this real simple, easy remote access solution. Why don't we do our part in just trying to help people through this a little bit? So we put an offer out to the industry, which basically said, you can use the LAS WORX Store solution to access all of your data remotely or however you want to do it at no charge. Full support, unlimited users for any E&P company that wants to take advantage of it. And we put the offer out there at least till the end of September at this point, not knowing where this thing is going, but at least till the end of September, there's just no charge. And this thing doesn't need a suite of IT people or technical people to get this thing up and running.
Wow.
It is really simple.
Right on.
Yeah,
right
that's
on.
our offer.
Awesome.
It is. All right, man. And then so take us back, Darren. What happened? What got you here? How did this all develop for you?
You're talking now. How far back do you want me to go? You talking Energy X or even before?
We could skip the cake stands in college or whatever that was.
Geez,
unless those stories are viable and extremely important to where you are today.
Well, the ones you remember anyway.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Well, if we go back to where sort of the Energy X start, here's how this came to be. So I mentioned earlier Randy Streimer. He's the founder of Energy X. He had been with what was Riley's, which was one of the major data vendors in the marketplace, going back previous to 2000. And he was a VP executive at Riley's for a number of years. That split off and became what ultimately became IDC, became IHS and Devesco in the Canadian marketplace. And he left that and started a company called LogTech in about 1999. Company focused on still digital log data and solutions. You guys have heard of the Calgary Stampede?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Okay. So I was in the high-tech industry prior to 2003 when the dot-com bubble burst. And coincidentally was at a major nightclub called Cowboys, and during the Calgary Stampede, all these major bars and nightclubs have large tents outside, beer gardens, live bands. And I was at one with a group from what was the Alberta energy regulator at the time, and a bunch of us were there socializing. And Randy and some of his crew from LogTech came by and were mingling with some of the people in our group, and I got introduced to Randy. So that was my first introduction to Randy. He was coming by, and I think he bought a round of shots for everybody at the table. And after being introduced, him and I connected real quick. We got together for coffee. I was looking to get my start in the oil and gas market at that time, and him and I just clicked. And he said, "I'll give you a shot." Sure. And that was in 2003, and in very short order, I was essentially driving all of the sales and marketing globally for the company.
Wow.
Cool. So we had a great run. We grew business. We became the second largest data vendor in the Canadian market in short order, with the smallest data set out of four major vendors. And in 2009, IHS said, "Okay, that's enough," and took it out. So they acquired LogTech at that time, and
can't beat them, buy them, right?
Well, that's exactly right. So, the small group of us went over to IHS as part of that acquisition. Randy went and put his feet up on a non-compete clause, and in a year plus a day, Energy X was born.
Wow.
So I went through some stints with IHS, after that. But in 2016, as Randy was starting to get Energy X off the ground, I come back and joined him to help promote the LAS WORX products. So. Here we are, almost, 4 or 5 years later. So
yeah, you're talking. Wait a minute, 2010-ish. He started that.
2009. I just acquired LogTech, and a year plus a day later. So 2010, Energy X was formed, and in roughly 2011, and within that next year, the first release of LAS WORX went out to market.
Wow. Right on, man. And the first thing that you guys were working on was taking an LAS file, taking as many LAS files as possible, starting to create this standard way of putting them together, organizing them, getting rid of the fat-fingered, messed up data, things like that.
Yeah, and we had a long history even back at the previous company with building solutions like that, but they were generally one file at a time solutions. So we took a lot of our knowledge and said, well, that's nice, but how do we do this in volume? So we built an automated bulk cleaning process, and that's what LAS WORX Clean was. And that's where the horsepower came from, was doing it in volume. Man. So real quickly, the major companies took notice and started literally cleaning millions of files through LAS WORX Clean.
I was going to say, because these large independents, I mean, forget about, what's publicly available, but these large independents internally, it's just how much log data do they have that they haven't been able to use because it's just, the time consuming of just cleaning them one at a time and just having that bulk solution just right out of the gate. And not only that, just throw them all in. Now they're all standardized. They're all ready to go. Now you can just bring them into whatever G&G software you're using to interpret them.
You made a good point there at the beginning of that, saying, what do I have? So our first product was the LAS WORX Clean, which got a lot of attention, a lot of use. But quickly people came back to us and said, that's nice, but I don't know where my data is to start with. And so we added a routine on the front of it that we called Find, which is the ability to just look out at the network or wherever you point it to and locate the data first without having to move it, gather it, organize it, just find it. And from there, I can clean the data.
Especially because every geologist on their own desktop has their own way of organizing their data for their brain. So
correct.
That's
man. Yeah, you're not kidding at all, man. That's really good stuff. That's really interesting how the development of that takes place, and then ultimately getting to 10 years down the line and expanding on these products. What I was thinking of while you were talking was how has not DI or Inverse that we call them now, or IHS or TGS or even somebody else, why haven't they? I'm surprised not bought out again.
Who knows one day. Our motivation is not to get acquired. Our motivation is to keep doing what we're doing. We're still relatively small. We're trying to stay under the radar and just do our thing. We still get people today, call us and say, why did you sell out to IHS, in 2009? Things were so much better before that happened. And, we're incredibly nimble. We appreciate that. Our customers appreciate that. We can turn enhancements requests around incredibly quick. It's sometimes hours and days, not weeks, months, or years. So we enjoy that.
I believe that. Now, I was thinking back, a lot of these companies, Inverse being one that says, all right, you buy a big database, we'll give a bunch of raw LAS. You hear that all the time, raw LAS files. And you dive into one, you're like, holy smokes, doesn't have a that long, it's missing all kinds of goofy stuff. How much power you could have quickly with the merge of LAS WORX and a big data dump like that. It's because when you see it as like a package, right, from the service provider, you go, man, you're getting 60,000 raw LAS files plus this, plus that, plus that. When you dive into that one bullet point that says 60,000 LAS files, to get to a product from that database that you actually use in your interpretation that's a multi-step bullet point thing on the back end. So that's why it popped into my head, like, man, they could just sell the data a lot cleaner. Or is there a liability issue with that? They don't want to be, hey, we've cleaned it up and we're delivering it to you. They want the user to clean it up. That's on the operator, I guess.
There's various vendors. They all deliver data differently. They deliver different structure, format that they adhere to, and it varies by vendor even. So it depends where it's coming from. And plus, you're getting your own operated data. Plus, you're usually got a petrophysical department who's doing some sort of value add to the files internally, and then ultimately somewhere, a geologist possibly is taking all variations of those files and trying to hip check those into an application.
All right, man. Well, let's dive in. Let's get down into the drill down segment.
Yeah, so I'll just walk through a fairly light brief presentation, and then there's essentially 3 products that we have. So this will just give you just a little bit of a high level understanding of what they are. Then I'll take you through a little live demo of all 3 of them just in a matter of minutes. Everything that we build is meant to be simple, easy to use. We haven't built a help manual for any of our products.
Wow.
We're a relatively small group. The support that we get, support calls we get are generally data related, not so much product related. And that's the way we like it. So just real quick, the company is EnergyX Technologies. It's headquartered in Calgary, Alberta. It's a privately owned technology company that I mentioned was founded in 2011 by Randy Strymer. Previous company was acquired by IHS in 2009. Point of that just being that there's a lot of history in this world that we live in right now of EnergyX, and the knowledge that we've gained to get here didn't just start in 2011. The core group of us, there's 5 in the core group, combined well in excess of 150 years of experience in not just G&G data and software, but almost exclusively in digital log data.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and one of the, and most of us are not geoscientists. So, careful when you guys are talking to me through this. I may not understand everything you're telling me. But we do have on staff Paul Bazinet, who is a master's of geology. So he's sort of our, client advisor, technical advisor. When we've got data questions that we can't answer as the frontline guys, he's our go-to.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And since 2011, with primarily the LAS WORX Clean product, 50% of the top North American operators have licensed it.
Pretty impressive.
So LAS WORX, it's a complete suite of utilities to enhance your digital log data experience. So if you're looking for a powerful, interactive, yet simple tool to edit an LAS file, it's LAS WORX Edit. If you want something to bulk clean and standardize your LAS files, it's LAS WORX Clean. And if you want remote, organized access to your LAS data, that's our solution that we call LAS WORX Store. So those are our 3 solutions today. So LAS WORX Edit is a simple little utility to validate, correct, and answer LAS files. It can read LAS and ASCII files. It's got a bunch of automatic data corrections, a host of data conversion functions, and it is used to simply edit individual LAS files. So, here's I'm going to blast through a list of just things that it can do automatically as you're opening LAS files. It'll correct, version 1.2 and 3.0 files to 2.0. It'll unwrap files. You can validate curve units. Then with a host of data conversion functions, you can rename your curve mnemonics. There's curve units conversion. You can depth shift. You can do depth conversions from metric to imperial. It's an online tool. There's no software to install. It's as simple as drag and drop a file to get started. And as with all of our tools, it will never overwrite, edit, modify, muck up your original file. We've intentionally written all of our software so that a user cannot accidentally, overwrite a database, for example, or even any one original file. So LAS WORX Edit, literally any user anybody can go to edit.lasworx.com, fill in a little profile in less than 1 minute. You're up and running with a trial version of the software.
Nice. All web-based?
All web-based, 100%.
Wow.
This product. So the second one, LAS WORX Clean. This is our product that's been around since 2011 or 2012. It's the bulk cleaning tool that helps you create clean, consistent, trustworthy LAS files. It's got a front-end tool to help you find and locate all your data. Cleans data in bulk incredibly fast. On average, it's cleaning about a file per second. So it helps you validate, standardize, and or customize your LAS files. And it's got a viewing tool. It's got a full log display built in as well so that you can view and or high grade your logs. So this is a tool you use if you really want to bulk clean your LAS data. So it's got all of the data correction and conversion functions that Edit has, plus a bunch more. You can dump a header report. You can identify duplicates. It's got a host of query tools. As you clean data, it's going to categorize them by clean, needs attention, and can't process. It's got a curve splicing and file merging routine, full log display, the ability to even rename files, again, in bulk as you're cleaning. All in a single process.
Man, yeah.
Question?
No, I was just thinking in my my mind how that actually looks. You know, looking
I'm
at
going
the
to show it to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah,
coming.
I'm going to show it to you.
The
So
brain's
don't just take my
working,
word
man.
for it. Yeah.
Don't try too hard over there, Troy.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah. So in its simplest form, really what it does, it'll take raw or original data and create clean data. And it's literally converting hours worth of time into seconds. We've got I believe it's a petrophysicist that said one day, and we often talk about, saving time. And his words were, "You're not saving time; you're actually creating time for me." Were his words. So to date, LAS WORX has literally cleaned in excess of 20 million LAS files by industry.
Ooh.
Wow.
So the third solution, which is LAS WORX Store, it's digital log data management or organization and access. So it's a platform that gives you a live and complete view of your LAS data. It's as simple as point and access. The important piece, there is no need to move your data. Unlike most management solutions, which are a deep database, require IT people, you'll see in the demo that we built a real simple solution to just get access to your data. And better yet, it's all properly organized and grouped by API. So you use this solution if you want easy access and the ability to share your LAS data internally at your organization. So we often say it really is as easy as 1, 2. There is no 3. It's just 1, 2, point and access. So by point, there's a little app that simply tell LAS WORX Store where to find your LAS files or where to look for them. So you can point this at a single folder, multiple folders, multiple directories, drives, point it at your entire corporate network. That's it. Let the applet do its thing. It will scan, look for all LAS files within all subfolders and index them automatically to LAS WORX Store without the need to move any of those LAS files. From there, it's just simply ready for access. So you can view, query, and download from a browser. So technically, it's any device. You could do this from an iPhone or an iPad. Yeah, you're probably not likely to do that, but you could because it's an online browser access with secure login credentials for every individual user. And all of the files, regardless of source or location or how well they were or were not organized previously on a network, are now available and accessible through the LAS WORX Store interface, properly organized and grouped by API. So just what else can you do once you're in LAS WORX Store? You can view all the well details and all the header info. There's you can map with a heat map, well spots. There's some custom queries in there built for US, Canada, and Australia. You can dump a header report. You can see a file condition. You can query on curves. There's a unique curve mnemonics table builder in there. You can download a copy of any of these LAS files if you need them to load into another application. And you can share the data internally and control who has access to it.
That's pretty powerful. I didn't know Store was going to be doing all that kind of stuff. So the table builder, the curve mnemonics, that's essentially coming up with an in-house. If you wanted to say, if it's GRS, it's GR. You have this way of cleaning up all the mnemonics of the curve names.
So this one isn't going to clean up the mnemonics, but it has a table built into the background so that you can search on files by certain mnemonics.
Got it.
Or certain curve groups, or look for a triple combo, quad combo, things like that. But the tables are only as good as updated as they are. So what this mnemonics table builder allows you to do is, assume you've pointed this at a bunch of your data on your network. You can then run this table builder and see what mnemonics are not in my table and add them if you like. I'll show it to you.
Cool.
Yeah, so there's obviously more information we can get to. These are mostly hyperlinks, so people watching won't be able to click on the screen and do this. But essentially, for both LAS WORX edit and store. There's a link that anybody can go to today. So edit.lasworx.com or store.lasworx.com. Fill in your name, phone number, email, company, and you can be up and running with test versions of that literally within a minute. LAS WORX Clean is an installed piece of software. It runs on the desktop. So you'd need us to help you with that one, but you can get a free trial. We can do demos anytime. And if you want to do that, there's how to get a hold of myself.
Right on, Darren. Right on.
All right.
Yeah. I don't have any questions. I just want to see it at work.
Yeah, well, let's do it. Okay.
I was going to say, when was the store feature added on?
Yeah, so at their core, there are three independent solutions.
Mm-hmm.
There is some overlap in features to some of them.
Yeah.
And LAS WORX Clean and Store do talk to each other if you want to push your clean data to store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So LAS WORX Edit, as I mentioned, edit.lasworx.com. You can just go to get started, fill this in, and you're literally up and running. Obviously, I've got an account already. Sign in, and here's what it looks like. So let me just, so it's as simple as you can go to the open button and find an LAS file, or you can literally just grab one and drag and drop it. So as it's reading that file, it's looking for a number of things that it's going to automatically correct or errors that it finds. So, and it's going to tell you. So right at the top, first thing it does, it says, here's some of the automatic corrections that it's taken care of. First of all, the start did not match the actual start of the data. Okay, interesting. So let's take a look at the original file. The original file says the start depth is 10, but the well start was automatically set to 100. So let's see. So we go down to the start of the data section.
Yep.
Yeah, see, it's actually 100. Mm-hmm. So it catches that. Okay. And it has actually corrected that in the what would be the new saved file. Okay. Again, not overwriting or editing the original. Okay, so the next thing it says is version wrap. This file has been converted to an unwrapped file. So you can see on the right, the original file was wrapped. The new saved file will be unwrapped automatically. And I haven't done nothing other than drag and drop that file into the screen. Then there's some warnings. So it's saying the depth is unevenly incremented in 2 locations. So according to the LAS 2.0 specification, the depth column has to be evenly incremented. So I can say, let's have a look at that. And it's highlighting where it's found an unevenly incremented step. And I can see it's 0.50, and it's got a 0.2 there, back to 0.5. So I can ignore that and leave it alone, or I can say, well, that's nice, but why don't you fix it for me? And it recognizes that 0.5 is the normal or common depth step in that depth column, but I could totally convert this to something else if I like. And I'm just going to say OK. And it's repaired that unevenly incremented depth step right there.
So the LAS WORX edit has a bunch of rules built into this thing. Simple things like the well header said it started at 10 feet. It actually started at 100. So if those don't match, that's a rule that you guys have come up with internally, and it does it on every single well. They have these rules, these checks and balances.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a long list of basic structural integrity items that it'll check for and either fix automatically or warn you. And then there's a host of other things you can do to just simply modify or edit the file yourself if you so choose to. So the next thing it's warning you here is the API and UWI is missing. So it actually knows that you probably would want that. And so, so the API and UWI fields are blank. It's probably an important thing. In this case, if I can see the file name here, and I actually trust that is the proper API. So I can actually just simply go I'll just key it in right here.
University lands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're actually a partner of ours. And then I'm just going to simply copy and paste that in there.
Wait, University Lands is a partner of LAS WORX?
Yeah.
Whoa, you're cleaning
I
up
can
their
imagine.
data?
I mean, with all that data
Yeah.
that they have coming in, and can you imagine like the geologists, like how much time that saves, right? Because these operators are just, they just need to get them the log data, right? And who knows how great of shape, quote unquote, that data is coming in as, right?
Yeah, and just to clarify, the data that they're putting out on their FTP site for public consumption has not been cleaned with LAS WORX. They're using LAS WORX internally only at this point.
So when you go to the University Lands website and you start trying to download some of the available LAS that they have, you're just looking at the raw curve. You're not looking at what...
or whatever they have done to it, but that's not a file that's been cleaned by LAS WORX.
Wow, man, that'd be awesome. So can I build a store account and then you load me in all the university land data we can get? Can that happen? Can we do that?
It's already done.
Sweet.
I'll show it to you.
Hell yeah. Man.
Yeah, so if I just carry on here, if I've got a problem with imperial versus metric files, a simple button click here would convert that. As mentioned earlier, I can convert to depth step. If I get to the curve sections, there's a number of things I can do here. There's an ability to smooth curves. I can depth shift curves. I can interpolate nulls if there's some gaps in the data. And I even have the ability to delete curves. Now, I've actually got a curve characteristic view here, and there's no no scales applied here. It's just sort of a min-max curve characteristic preview. But just for argument's sake, and recall I am not a geologist, so I apologize if this is not what a geologist would do, but I've got a variety of gamma ray curves at the end here. And you know what? I'm actually just going to remove those last four. I don't need those. I don't want those. So please get them out of my file. Those are now gone. And this particular gamma ray here, although it's named GRSG, I'd rather rename it just simply GR.
Are you doing that right in there with the log viewer?
You can edit things right here in the display. You can edit values, names, and there you go. So you might say, okay, well, that's all I need to do. I'm happy with that. Simple save. We'll take a copy of that, apply all this to it, and save it in my downloads folder. So again, not overwriting the original file. And if I just simply click on that, there's the new file.
Man.
Just like that.
Yeah, that's sweet. It's really cool.
That's pretty.
You got a temperature log on this thing? Does this well have a temperature log?
I don't think so.
We were just randomly talking about temperature logs the other day. Bring it up.
Yeah, it's funny. Even as I'm looking at this, I just noticed. See, there's a unit missing. Okay, well, you know what I can do? There's a unit missing. I can click right in here. It'll recognize I'm in the unit section, and I know that's a. Here I can say, well, that's an NP. Let's have a look at that.
Is it
right, so here it is right here.
Neutron porosity, right?
Yeah, so neutron porosity. So I can look at those values and okay, I know those are decimal. They're not percent. Those are decimal. So I can literally just go D/V and done it. It puts that unit right there in my file. Let me save that again. Open that up, and there's my unit now in the file.
Yep.
So that's LAS WORX Edit. It really is that simple. It's just an online tool. Drag and drop a file, correct a bunch of things automatically, and edit a bunch of things manually if you like.
How's that curve view? Is there much editing in that, like color fill?
No. Today it's just a simple curve characteristic view. I mean, you can click on a particular point and get a value. That's as far as that goes today. I think on the roadmap we'll probably add a much better log display at some point, but not today.
Right on.
All right.
Yep.
We good with that one? Any questions?
Nope. I mean,
okay.
Go for it, T-Roy.
I was going to say digital logs, the wireline stuff, but you can also get LAS in mud logs. You can get LAS with geochemistry, rock eval paralysis. I mean, Can this thing merge LAS files, creating one LAS file? 3 different data sets.
This can't, but LAS WORX Clean can.
Nice.
All
What
right.
this thing can do, which might have been a bullet in the presentation, but I didn't say anything here, it also has the ability to convert ASCII files or CSV files to LAS. So if you've got a bunch of core data in CSV format or just a textual format, you can drag and drop one of that file in here and convert it to an LAS file.
Let's go. That's pretty cool. Okay. You got a white paper on that? How to build the CSV or make it where it figures that out?
No, do not yet. LAS WORX Edit was just launched in the market last week, literally. We've got a couple of videos about to come out on this thing. There's a video about to go live probably next week on just the general overview about what I showed you today. There's a second video that'll probably come out within a week or two after that, showing how to do exactly that, which is import a core CSV file and convert it to an LAS.
Nice. Awesome.
All right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, so this is LAS WORX Clean. So it has the ability to search, find, and locate your LAS files. So here's just 3 directories or paths that I had already told it to hunt and look for LAS files, and it's this one's found 150 LAS files. It indexes them, shows you all the header information. But let me just add one just to show you exactly what it looks like live. I'll just pick here's some Colorado data. And it automatically starts scanning. You can see it's already found 100 files in a matter of a couple of seconds. And now it's reading the headers and indexing all that to the display for you.
So can you also, within this function, find all the LAS, CSV, or any other file types together? Or is it just you can only run LAS at one time, CSV at one time, ASCII at one time?
Yeah, great question. Everything we're doing is LAS, so it is looking for anything .las.
Okay.
All right. So in a matter of a few seconds while we were just talking, it scanned all 100 of those files. I could literally dump a report and just say COGCC, then on the desktop. And there it is already. So it's a quick way to get an export of all of your header information. So exactly what you see on the screen is exactly what gets output into this report.
Those bottom hole temperatures, nice.
Yeah, which I've got turned on.
That's some fun stuff.
At the end here. So essentially, through the settings here, you decide which fields you want to see on the display. So obviously, as you know, there's a lot of parameter detail, but bottom hole temperature is one that I've got turned on, so it displayed it and dumped it into my report. So real easy to just locate LAS files regardless of where they are, regardless of subfolders, regardless of what else might be in those files. Give me a picture of my LAS data. Some things I can do here, find duplicates. We've got a routine built in here that uses hash ID technology. So every LAS file essentially gets a unique fingerprint ID. And this compares those IDs and lets you know if it finds any exact matches. So with the exception of, it ignores the file name. Okay. So in this case, it found these 2 files are an exact match and these 2 files are an exact match. Gives you the path, gives you some detail, and from there I can checkbox them and move them off into a temp folder to delete if I so choose to. Duplicate seems to be a fairly common problem on networks, so people use that fairly heavily. I can use, there's a couple of ways to query on data. I can use markers to identify things that are not an actual header value, so I can look for text strings or words. We've got customers who have used this to help identify vendor data because they've had a contract expire or terminate, or they've changed vendors and they have to purge a certain vendor data. So they've used this to identify and locate data for purge. And then you can also query by any of those fields as well. But when you get to the real horsepower of what LAS WORX Clean does, I'm just going to go to, here I've got, there's 50 files in this particular folder. I'm just going to select them, right-click, and say clean them. And what it's going to do is going to take a profile that I've already set up, and based on the things that I've toggled and turned on, it's going to apply that and clean all of these in bulk.
Nice.
And it just looks something like this. So it's saying, so what it'll do is it'll create a copy of the file, apply those profile, and put it into one of 3 folders that I as a user have specified. Clean meaning passed all criteria, the file's good to go, put it in there. Attention means it's good structurally and it passed most things, but there's something that failed, there's a warning requires attention here. And then files that just simply can't be read or processed for some reason get copied into this folder. So you separate the good, bad, and the ugly in the process all automatically. So I'm just going to say, okay, go. And I've got it doing a variety of things like cleaning up APIs. And so you'll see, you'll see, first of all, green means clean, passed all criteria, and it's putting a copy into clean folder. So you could say, for example, that data is going to be ready to load into my geological workstation. So and then, here's a file that's gone yellow. So that's an attention file. So I can double click on that and say, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Although I can see from the display, it's at least an API issue. Or in this case, I guess it's a Canadian file, so it's a UWI issue. And so, so it's highlighting the well section, and it's highlighting the UWI saying it's not a proper 16-character UWI, so it's warning me. So I can ignore that, or I can say, it's okay, I know what this is. I know it's actually just missing, it's missing the 100 at the front and a 00 at the end. And if I just simply tab out of this, you'll even see the API field automatically update as well. I can just simply close out of that, say save, and that file has now gone from yellow to green, and it's moved it from my attention folder automatically into my clean folder. As you can see, I'm automatically also renaming these files. Oh, there's one that went red, so that's a can't process file. Let's double click on that one. File does not contain any valid curve data. Scroll down.
Got a problem.
There's no data section, right? And other than that, again, it's already complete. So in less than a minute, I just cleaned 50 LAS files.
Yeah. Complete, clean, top to bottom.
Complete. So you can do things like,
found,
standardized
clean,
curve mnemonics. Yeah. Find, clean, done, ready to go. So the guys like you can now go work your magic and do your work. So, there in a high-level overview is LAS WORX Clean. All right. There's just double-click on another file. So there is a full log display built in here that's template-driven. You can add color fills and color shading, and you can actually add tops here and save files to a favorites folder. I can bring up 4 across the screen and correlate them and compare them, things like that. So there's a bit of a log display built in here. So in an LAS WORX Clean, this tool, this solution also has the ability to merge files together. So there's a merge routine. I can open up a file, say run 1, for example, pick run 2, merge it together. I can splice curves if I so choose in a display, pick the join points. With a couple of mouse clicks, I can merge those together.
Nice. So going back to the geochem, rock eval, whatever else data you have in some other format, you're merging those things and creating one ultimate LAS file.
Correct.
Huh.
It's there. So that's LAS WORX Clean. We've got, and so this tool is also, so this is sort of, I call this, although it's running in automatic batch mode, it takes a user to, add a directory, make a decision on what files to clean, and then right click and go. We also have this in automated mode, which requires no human intervention. We just refer to it as auto clean. You can set it up to point at a certain folder or set of folders, and as somebody or people or your logging company, your service company, your vendor copies files to that folder, it will automatically recognize data is there, automatically clean it just like I did here, put those files into the clean attention can't process folders, and done automatically without human intervention.
Also tripping flags and stuff automatically.
Correct.
Which would be, it's good. It's live data coming in, and Schlumberger thinking, hey, this is, everything's delivered perfectly, on to the next project, and you have something that's real time saying, hold on, the API is not matching. Somebody, something happened, and you get, what do you get, an email? You get, how do you got to check that folder manually to see if that Schlumberger data that just came in is all good?
Yeah, right now you would have to go check it automatically. But we do have one of the majors who's using this today has set up a daisy chain of 3 auto cleans. And essentially I've got a set of folders that whoever the user is will copy data to, depending on the source of the data. And it runs through various cleaning steps. But at the end, they've renamed all of their curves based on the source, and with a custom curve table. And at the end, they have set it up where the user ID gets it input into the header of the file. They read that at the end step and spawn an automatic email to the user that your data is ready to go.
Right on.
So those guys I know have dumped literally 250,000 files through the process without a hiccup in one go.
Jeez.
Gosh, 250,000 files.
Yeah, I know. That's a lot of data.
Yeah. So this is what I referred to earlier, that industry is clean in excess of 20 million files. This is the tool that they did that with.
Right on, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. LAS WORX Store. So the ability to access your data now. So same thing, any user can go to store.lasworks.com, click Get Started, fill in your criteria, and you can get into a test account very quickly. Just log in here. And this is the solution that I mentioned earlier we have offered to industry at no charge. So I'm in a browser, simple login, one screen here. On the background of this thing, to get data into it, there's a little service applet. Just simply point it at a file, a folder, a directory, a network, variety of networks, variety of directories, whatever you like, and it'll simply scan and index all of that data available for view here. So for example, here's a typical, most companies were learning, we thought most companies had licensed some major database application and were hosting most of their data in these systems. We learned over this last year that, in fact, is not the case. And maybe they did at one point, but most of their data today is simply being stored in folder or directory tree structure, much like this. It's a state county type structure with, in this case, it's just LAS files, but you'd have all of your subsurface data or whatever, core images, drilling reports, whatever you might have in these end folders.
But you're giving them too much credit, because I've heard some much worse potential data management methods at some of these data companies, but
yeah, we have too. But this is pretty common, at least in terms of LAS data. If it is anywhere, this is where it might be, or where some of it may be. And to your point earlier about, where's my data? I don't know where my data is. When we first connect with a new customer, we actually get excited about, here, take the software, just install it, just put it in your network, let it go, and let it give you a picture of what you don't know. We always ask people, like, how much data do you think you've got? Give us a wild guess.
Yeah.
And they'll come up with some number, and it's often multiple magnitudes more than what they think it is. And they're shocked. They're shocked. And yeah, there'll be lots of duplication, but they're still shocked to find out how much data is just out on the network.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so a folder structure just like this, there it is. There's the path there pointed at this little service utility. And here it is here. I can just simply click on this, and right on my display live, in Google Chrome, here is all this data. Okay, and in this case, it's 4,485 files on 3,188 locations, UWIs. If I just sort of scroll through a little bit, you can quickly see, some of it's got no API in the file. It's just all original data, so good, bad, and ugly. Mm-hmm. This little green donut circle tells you it's at least a valid structured LAS file. And if I happen to come across a red one, it just means it's just not. So it'll still display it for you. But you can quickly see here, these 5 or 6 files grouped by API. If you can see that color on the screen there, these two grouped by API. So again, all of these folder structures, multiple layers of folder structures with data, now grouped nice and cleanly on one display, one view. So now I've got multiple paths that I've scanned and loaded. But I can also just simply, hold on, I gotta move this zoom toolbar. I can just simply go to this bucket and say, view all files.
A bucket is like a project?
Yeah, so that service utility I showed you is scanning and put a copy or the index of all that data into what we call this folder's data bucket. You can also, as I'm cleaning data in LAS WORX as an option, if I have both LAS WORX and Store, I can turn on a setting here that says, take a copy of my clean data and also make that available in Store automatically as I'm cleaning data. And that indexes into this clean bucket. So I can just simply say, view these files. Here's all the data that I've cleaned with LAS WORX. And now instead of a green ring, it's a solid green circle. I know that file has been cleaned by LAS WORX. So, once you're in the display, some of the things you can do here, I can click on any file. I can see a full header. I can just click from file to file and look at headers. I've got a little heat map. So it's going to, so it's going to show a heat map by county. So the darker the red, the more files in that particular county. Mm-hmm. And then a well spot as well. So it's a little lasso feature. I can say, well, I just really want to look at these. So if I list of those, there's those 6 files there.
Mm-hmm. Good old Noble.
Right. So then there's a host of search or query tools. I can search by state, county. I can search by a code or a specific API. I can type in a text string.
I may have missed this, but can it only visualize the wells that have been cleaned, or is it all the wells with the valid lat long?
Lat long not required. So we've actually partnered with a company called Petro Ninja out of Calgary. So this is actually their map display in the background integrated in here. And it's using their master well table. So it's comparing the API and or UWI to their table and mapping it.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay. So, but the power of this thing is we're going to create an API. This is meant to be an open system. So Mr. Exploration company, if you've got your own Esri mapping package or ArcGIS, or you want to connect your own third-party application to this thing, no problem. We invite you to do so. Okay.
Mapping.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, so this little drawer that you can pull out here, so you can search by, you can query on all sorts of header details. As I mentioned, you can query on the curve group. So here's where you can select, for example, the triple or quad combo, or I just want to look for all files that have a gamma ray. So build your queries here. And I mentioned earlier, we talked about this.
That's really powerful. I mean, if you're doing like a regional cross section, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking for, all right, I need all the wells with just keeping it simple, like gamma resistivity in this AOI, right? Like Delaware Basin or up in Colorado or Midland Basin or Eagle Ford. Just having that and the ability to just query out all your wells right away, and then taking those clean wells and then pulling them and then starting to pick tops and start actually understanding what's going on the subsurface in like a cross section.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just do a little test here. We'll take Texas, all counties. We happen to have some Texas data, so I've just turned on that bucket. So all that stuff that I cleaned and scanned, I'm actually ignoring that. I'm just looking at some of the data that's collected by agency, university lands, for example. And sure, I only want to see the files that have a, gamma ray and a bulk density, maybe a neutron porosity or something like that. And just say search. And there, within a few seconds, I've found 2,550 files on just over 1,600 locations that match that criteria.
Bang.
All right.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and this is, again, this is live online from a browser. So that's searching based on the table, and as I mentioned earlier, it's as good as the table is. So here's that table in the background. So for example, gamma ray, if I click on that, here are all the mnemonics that we've got loaded into the table or preloaded into the table. But if I just go to that.
Sheesh, those all mean gamma ray.
There's some weird ones in there that I've never seen.
Sure. So here's this unrecognized mnemonics feature. So I can just simply go, let's just type in GAM, for example, on just that agency data. Here's a list of all the GAM wildcarded star mnemonics that are not in the table. And it sorts them by, so for this one, GAMM, there are 361 files in this particular bucket of data that have the GAMM curve, and it's not in this table. So I'm gonna, I can just simply go, well, that's good. I want to now, just as an example,
add those bad
just
boys.
Go to this just go little add button and just say add. Done. Now added to my table. Now if I go back and query, I'll get those files that weren't included in the first search. So it's an ability to try and stay current with your mnemonics, which is not an easy task. You guys, I'm sure, are very well aware of that.
Oh yeah.
Building a table is one thing, but staying current with it is just a whole nother thing. So this is just another way to help you do that.
What are the over the years and working on developing these products that have now just been launched? What are the more interesting thoughts or collaborations that you guys or you personally dealt with an operator? Like, have they come and just thought of just amazing ideas that really helped this product along the way, or is it mostly internally as you guys are fighting through this?
You know what I'll tell you? For every one of our products, an idea started somewhere based on something that we knew or something that somebody said to us, hey, I got a problem with this data. Can you help me, sort it out or clean it or get access to it? Every one of our products didn't start the way you see it today. They started with some shape or form and evolved as somebody used it, touched it, played with it, clicked on it, tested it, and said, okay, that's great, but could you do this? And could you do this? We take those requests literally. We take them seriously. We manage a a very diligent list of enhancement requests from our customers. We probably review it almost daily and juggle priorities for our developers. And these products evolve simply that way. So, well, we've got a lot of experience and knowledge. The evolution of these things comes at the direction of our customers and our users.
That's good, man. I didn't know how the answer was going to turn out, but it turned out to be a great answer. I want to know if I could take this software and I want to point it to the internet and I want to say, give me all the LAS files you can find.
Wouldn't that be nice? We'll have to put that one on the enhancement list. I can't do that today. Right now, the way our find routines are built is they're using Windows protocol. So it's looking for directories that Windows can see, that you as a user have permissions on your desktop can see. So even if you are a user and you do not have permissions on a particular file, our system won't see it either.
Got it.
So right now it's doing that, but it will find things like Dropbox, OneDrive, things that, again, Windows will see. Mm-hmm. We also found a way. I know you guys, have met or talked to Glenn in the past. He had actually, you know what? I think it was actually that same Midland Lunch and Learn. I am almost certain now that I remember.
It all comes full circle.
It does.
It all comes back to the Lunch and Learn.
There was a user there who said, I am getting, I've got a drilling program going on. I got a number of rigs, and I am literally getting hundreds of emails a day with an LAS file in it. And although I'm expected to be looking at every one of those, there's just no way. It's impossible. I can't. Like, just even to go in an email and open up an email and click the file and save as and move it somewhere and do something with it. It's just impossible.
On the priority list. It's just so far down that chain. I do remember someone bringing that up. Now that you're talking about that, because my mind was blown too, because at the time I was like, wait, you're getting hundreds of LAS files a day?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Well, get this. We left that session and Glenn, he's a bird dog. He went and looked into this thing and said, there's got to be a way we can help these guys, right? So he found a little third-party applet that's blessed by Microsoft, a small little company. And this thing, it's just got a little profile screen, will search your attachments in your inbox. So what he did was he got a little license to this application. He set a couple of rules within Outlook to say if the subject or the sender matches this that relates to a specific well, categorize it into this folder, right? So I'm getting all of my data sorted by well to start with. Then he had this applet point to those directories and strip out the LAS file and put it into a separate temporary folder. Then we had LAS WORX simply scanning that folder. And in live real time. So this, what I failed to mention earlier, as you can see at the bottom here, this thing is constantly scanning. So this is a live display. So if someone ever edits a file, adds a file, deletes a file, this thing will pick it up and modify the display in real time. So as files were coming into his inbox without any intervention, this display was updating with the new data.
Man, that's awesome. So it's just all he needs to do now is go into that clean folder and boom, that log is there.
That's correct.
Well, in theory, right? Unless there's some sort of catastrophic bust in the log.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
And I don't have the column turned on, but you can turn on a column that says date added. So you could come in the morning and, you might have 10, 20, or 100 new LAS files, maybe from the same well, and they're all incremental. So maybe you don't need them all. I just want the last one. Sort that by date added, grab the last one, and I don't know, clean it.
And then pull it into your G&G.
You got it.
Yeah. That is neat. That I was gonna say, I remember that being brought up, and just kind of from that luncheon 3 years ago to the product now. I mean, it was great then, but just how many things that you've added at EnergyX is just fantastic. I love these querying options. I love the problems with the mnemonics. Like, those were all things that I was thinking of at the time, but I'm not the big G&G guy at the company, so I'm not just kind of bite into myself, but I know everyone's dealing with those problems.
Yeah. I'd say, converting mnemonics is probably one of the heaviest used functions in LAS WORX Clean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, and so how do we get an LAS WORX store deal going? We just go to the website store.lasworx.com, fill out the program. PBE podcast wants to start exploring for hydrocarbon. Let's load up some wells, create a program, and just like that, you're handing this thing out.
Yeah, that's correct. And what you'll get, you can load. So again, until the end of September at least. If things stay terrible, unfortunately, we may extend that. But for now, you get the interface, unlimited number of accounts. Each user just needs their own login account. They just go to the same website. And here it is here. So store.lasworx.com. Just click on Get Started. You can ignore the stuff at the bottom. There's some fees down there depending on the features that you want ultimately, but that can all be ignored for now. You're not going to get invoice. You're not going to get an automatic invoice if you click on any of those. Just click Get Started. Fill this in, and you're going to get an email that says your account's ready to go. Come back, sign in.
Off to the races.
And you're live. So a couple things that you'll be able to do from here. One, we do have some, we are not a data vendor. We're not intending to be a data vendor, but we do have some Canadian data, some US data, and even recently, because we've been working with an Australia company, we've got some Australian data. That's there and available for you to access, view.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's awesome.
You can download a handful of them just, for test purposes, really, just to play with the system. But if you want to add some of your own data, no problem. There's a little Get Local Store button. You'll see this little text pop up on the side. Click this little Store Service Installer. That's a little utility. That's this little utility here that has to get installed on the desktop. Okay, mm-hmm. So the little wizard, just install that. You'll sign up to them with the same username and password that you just signed into Store so that they know to talk to each other. And just simply add a directory. Looks just like this. Let's just go grab another little small directory here so I can show you literally how it works. I don't already have that one. Nope. There it is. Looks like there might be 50 files in that. And we'll just tell it to scan that one. So you can see it's now reading the headers in that particular directory that I just added. And much like LAS WORX Clean, this thing's always live. So it's going to always scan. This little applet sits in your tray just down on your desktop and just runs. So you can ignore it. It'll just keep your system live and update. So there, the reading part is done because I know that orange text went away. So I'm just going to minimize that. I'm going to go back over to my folders, and I should see a fourth row here, and that was this 50 here. And just like that, there. In a minute or so, I just added 50 more files to my store display.
Man, this is awesome that you're offering this for free right now during this time. I mean, it's exactly right. Extremely powerful, extremely powerful, and something that, you guys are, hey, this is what LAS WORX can do for you.
We're in a time of mismanagement, I think, in many ways, and mismanaging data for the people that are still in it, still relying on the ability to acquire all this stuff, put it together, make decisions, and get the results that we're all trying to do. I mean, you're allowing people that didn't have these tools before to have these tools at a time where they might need them the most.
We believe so. We know people need the tools. Will everybody take advantage of this? No, but if some do, we're happy to support it. And there's no obligation beyond the end of September. They can simply disable it, turn it off, or if they want to carry on using it. It's most of our solutions are relatively inexpensive. This isn't high-end dollar type stuff, so very economical for any company to get into.
And especially right now, just for like the listeners who are listening to this, this is the time where you don't have 20, 30, 40 rigs running, right? This is the time where you can do that due diligence and go through and organize that data, right? And then begin developing those prospects. So when, oil's back up, you're blowing and going again, right? So using this downtime to your advantage, and especially something like a product like just the LAS WORX store, right? Just awesome to have.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when oil's $100, I don't know that companies pay as much attention to the data and the quality and the organization of it. You just start flinging data applications, make some decisions. It's a bit of a gross exaggeration, but in the downturns, I think you're right. People tend to be a little more cautious on trying to make better decisions with good data. So we've got some solutions to really help make those decisions easier, quicker, in terms of LAS data anyway.
Yeah. Well, man, I thought that was a great segment. I mean, if you're done, I think the drill down segment was awesome. Yeah. Sweet. Then if you guys need to take a break, we can take a break, or we can go into the completion part of the show. What do you guys think?
Give me like a minute. I got to go to the bathroom real quick.
Hit it.
All right.
I only got one beer in me, so I'm good.
Well, it's funny that he was at that lunch and learn. That's a wild coincidence. That's awesome.
Yeah. Love how that shit comes full circle. I mean, it makes the show.
Yeah. Well, that was for Glenn and I. That was our first trip into Midland. I mean, we'll never forget that one. It's
is that right?
Flying into Midland, we're like, even looking out the plane window as you're coming in, we're like, it's just pump jacks as far as you can see, and like wow.
Another world, man.
And I remember we flew in. It was early on a Sunday afternoon. Just the way the flights worked, we got in and got into our Airbnb, and we had all Sunday afternoon left over. I'm like, well, what are we gonna do? Like, we're in Midland. Like, I don't know. We've never been here before. Like, what is there to do? So you grab the phone and like, okay, things to do in Midland.
V-Bar.
And if I remember right, the first thing that came up was something like some big horseshoe pit facility, right? We're like, okay, that doesn't sound too exciting. Second thing, gun range.
Nice.
And I said that to Glenn, and I could just see his eyes light up. I'm like, oh, does that sound exciting? He goes, I haven't shot a gun in like 20 years. I'm like, we're going. So we went, I think it was over in Odessa, and we went to a gun range, and then we blasted off hundreds and hundreds of rounds. Glenn was like a kid in a candy store.
Wow.
I mean, it was just fun to watch. Yeah,
I love that. We'll have to bring that back up in the intro. Skips, he was just saying that was their first trip into Midland, that workshop that you got to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Oh man, it was a beautiful 110 degree day.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Darren, let's dive right into the completion part of this show, man. Yeah. I think the conception was a good setup. Really understand the experience, the professional development of the individuals who are now behind the company and pushing these products forward, and understanding what it is that you guys are providing solutions for. And the drill down segment obviously goes into those details perfectly. And you showed that flawlessly live with the web application and the desktop application, which is always a scary thing, but you handled it well. And our random little questions, but moving forward and thinking about the future for LAS WORX and as a company, where the industry's going, let's get some insight. What do you think?
Sure. I mean, if you go back to sort of, I call it round one, when we were most of the same group were at LogTech. We actually chuckle when we look back now. We didn't have the technology that we have today at our disposal, and what we learned then was monumental. We now don't have any limitations in our thinking of what we can do and offer to industry in terms of helping companies get better access to better data. Mm-hmm. And we're going to disrupt some things, and some of the vendors may not like where we're headed, but there's a better way to do things, and we know there is. So we're not we're not all there yet, but we're going in steps with some of these solutions to get there. There's a lot of data out there, and we keep learning that customers and companies, as much as we maybe thought even some of the majors maybe had this stuff under control, everybody needs help to some degree, and some more than others. So we're going to continue building solutions to help companies get a better handle on better data for guys like you in the G&G department.
Nice. Yeah, no, anyway, I thought maybe we were going to continue. Sorry, I just sat there and stared, but yeah, it's something to think about. It's a huge task, and I can't imagine being in the super major that has the hundreds of thousands of wells and more wells and data just constantly coming in live, getting 100 emails a day with LAS data. How is that actually being managed to make better decisions tomorrow? And this is a product that does that. It's built for that kind of task, and that's got to be exciting for a lot of people that get to take this and run with it. For you guys to work with them, see how the future is going to go with big data and how this thing's going to be managed. Does LAS WORX? Now that I talked myself into another idea, does LAS WORX do something on the publicly available data sets? You know how like IHS or TGS or whatever, most of that stuff is obtainable. If you want to take the time, you can get eventually all that data the same. I mean, some of that stuff they're digitizing and adding value like in-house, and it's different. It's not available. You can get the raster image. It doesn't have LAS, blah, blah, blah. But as far as what's available, is LAS WORX doing anything on that front, putting together packages of cleaned up data by your experience and from your perspective of how to get this data into what your guys' the collective mindset wants to see it in, and then deliver that package to somebody?
That's a good question, Troy. Our intent is not to be a data vendor. We've got tools and solutions to help people with the data that they've got. We do know, we have learned over the last couple of years that despite data vendors having a lot of data that's available to companies, people are still trying to go to these agencies and get access to the data that's available from these agencies, and it's not easy. It's actually a very difficult task, and that's probably where we even got started with the University of Lands thing as well. But so right now, no, we don't have an ability to, get access to all the agency data that's out there. We're not a digitizing shop. Yeah, we've got some data that I showed you that you can access in our system right now, but our prime objective is to offer the software and solutions to help you deal with the data once you've got it. So not to say that we won't go there, but that's not where we're at today. Where I guess if there's enough demand and people need more help with that, we'll certainly consider that. But we're not offering data to the market today.
Yeah. What about digital transformation? What are your thoughts on that as just your perspective and what we're living through? We're living through the digital transformation, obviously. We're contributing to it. We're trying to help create tools to help better manage it. What do you got on that? I
mean, especially now, right? Because now we're kind of in a way forced into this digital transformation. So yeah, what is LAS WORX doing on that front?
Yeah, even 15 years ago, we were talking about this when there was a shift to moving away from rasters and TIFFs into, this new LAS format that was becoming more available. We thought we were in a massive transformation even 10 or 15 years ago. And it turns out, it's still happening to some degree. We're not all there yet. And there's still people using rasters heavily. They can get a raster for every well out there. That's probably the first reason. Cost is probably a little lower. But the difference between 10 years ago and today, everybody today has a tool to probably read and access and read or compare cross-section an LAS file, which they maybe didn't have a decade ago. So I think the transformation has been happening for a long time, and I'm only talking on the niche of LAS data, which may be different for some of the other data sets, but it's happening. It's been happening. It'll continue to happen for some period of time. I know the vendors are still, vending very large volumes of data to exploration companies. They're still digitizing large volumes of data because there's still gaps in the availability of LAS data. What maybe might be the next step is maybe just how they access that data. Cloud-based is becoming a big thing. So technically our store product that you see on the screen, the last product I showed you, is a cloud-based. There's an option. We've got a cloud agreement with AWS. And although you can keep your LAS files locally on your own network, if that's how you feel more secure about it, you can push all of your own data to our private cloud in your own segregated partition securely, and away you go. So cloud is certainly a big transformation step that I think people are looking at. Some are there, some aren't. Some are just scared of it. The word scares people. Those who seem to know about it recognize that it actually may be more secure than their own network internally. Strangely enough. So we've now we're now going that way. So and it's an option. So it's for those that want to use it. We've got some customers who are putting all their data into our cloud storage, and they're really happy about it. So some have just said, I don't know about that yet. We'll just keep our files locally on our network. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's an option and the solution to do either or. So, I don't know. It's hard to say where all this is going. But cloud's probably a big piece, and the machine learning and IA stuff that's coming up. I
was going to say that's something that would be now that I'm kind of, brainstorming ideas, something that'd be very powerful is if you're developing internally some kind of AI or machine learning algorithm, right? Where you're, throwing all this log data in, right? Having a standardized format for that is crucial. Because I mean, that was part of the work that I was doing. And it understanding that, hey, this data is all the same. We don't need to mess with mnemonics. Everything's been cleaned. We know these LAS files are good. And now we can just start putting them into these machines, and we can start doing these, huge regional studies or very, very specific studies based on a particular reservoir.
Right.
So I think that's some pretty fascinating stuff now that I'm like, kind of the wheels are turning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not likely we're going to get into the AI and ML stuff anytime soon for ourselves. But as I mentioned earlier, we're building LAS WORX Store as an open system. Mm-hmm. And if somebody wants to connect their solution to the store database in the back end, we welcome that. We absolutely welcome that. Just in the last, here's some example. Just in the last 2 weeks, we had two different major companies in the US. One has multiple network directories internally. They took that store service and pointed it at one. And they were expecting to find, somewhere less than 100,000 LAS files. And the final tally was around 950,000 LAS files on one network directory. So they were blown away by how much data was out there. And yeah, there'll be lots of duplicates, but within a matter of, I think it took a couple of days to run that scan, but still, in a matter of a couple of days, they had a picture of a data they had never had in the history of the company.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Another major just pointed it at a large data set they've got and found 1.4 million files. And that was data that they had acquired from one of the vendors. They had an older data management system that they've retired, or it's been retired by the vendor. And so their next step, they've just started today, is they're now pointing that service at all of that data that was stored in that data management system. And then they're going to point it at a third pot of data by a second vendor and put all of that data in store. And we're anticipating by the end, there'll be somewhere in the order of 5 million files sitting in store that they can then share out through all of their regional offices through a simple interface.
Right on.
So I can see companies like that now saying, great, all that data is there. Now connect those things to maybe some ML or some AI systems or, analytics routines and third-party applications. that's where I would see the stuff going.
Definitely. It's kind of that precursor before it. Yeah, man, that was awesome, dude. I think the completion part of the show is wrapped up. What do you guys think?
I got one. Yeah, just one last, follow up, because you've kind of given us, I think you've basically given this answer, but where is LAS WORX going in the future, right? Thinking beyond, this pandemic, like what are the next steps? How are you guys continuing to develop the software for clients' needs? Are there any big things that you guys are rolling out potentially in the next, year or two?
Yeah, good question. So the LAS WORX Clean product has been our staple product, for the last 8 or 9 years. LAS WORX Store, we brought to market almost a year ago. Mm-hmm. And but at the time it was the cloud only option, and that's when we learned real quickly that people had most of their data stored on directory structures internally, and they didn't want to mess with that, and some of them feared the cloud option. So we sort of went back to a development strategy and produced the next option, which was keep the data locally. Don't move my data. Don't mess with my directory structure. In fact, we encourage them to keep using their directory structure. The service will just keep pointing at it. So with the last year, we've been in a large development cycle on this LAS WORX Store. It's now rolling. We've got customers, as I just mentioned, loading literally millions of files to this thing. It's just humming along right now. LAS WORX Edit, we just released last week, literally. So we'll probably roll into a little bit of a hold on new products for the next little while these things get a lot of traction. We know we're going to get a lot of feedback on, great, can you do this now? And can you add this?
Exactly.
And, probably the API and, having this thing talk to other third-party applications, integrating some mapping, their own maps instead of just the one that we've got in there. So our next probably 6 to 12 months will probably largely be supporting new installations, new users, and new ideas with these products. But bigger picture beyond that, we've got some pretty big ideas on just how to help the flow and movement of LAS data around the industry and just make it easier. It's probably about as much as I could tell you on that one.
I was going to say.
But yeah, we really do. And technology is just allowing us to come up with these ideas now that wasn't there even 2 years ago.
Man, what an exciting time. Right on, man. Well, PBE is definitely signing up. We are going to get a license to the LAS WORX Store, and we're going to start messing with the available data that's in there, adding new data that we find. I don't know. Let's go find some oil plays, Skippo.
I'm in. I'm in.
Right on, man. Well, I think that's it. Let's wrap it up as a show. And Darren, again, man, thank you so much. It was an honor to share the microphones with you and the experience you have, the perspective, and sharing that with us. I really enjoyed it, certainly.
Thanks, Tride. Thanks, Skips.
Hey,
been a pleasure.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah.